Welcome to the Under Construction Podcast with me, Martin Williams. Here we talk about how to build or rebuild your life one step at a time. And welcome to the Under Construction Podcast. My name is Martin Williams. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast. You may do so on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, and SoundCloud. All the links to the podcast can be found at guidedexpressions.com/podcast with an S. Today, I wanted to speak with you about taking up space in the world. So what does that mean? What does taking up space mean? What I'm really talking about here is having the necessary confidence and self-esteem to make your presence known in the earth, to let people know that you're here, to let people know that you're here not only to just live and exist, but you're here to make a difference. You're here to shift things, to be a game changer, to be a world changer. It's very important that you have self-esteem and confidence in anything that you're doing. And if you don't have it, it can be very detrimental. It can stop you from making any kind of progress because you're constantly self-analyzing, you're doubting yourself, you're stopping yourself from taking any steps forward in your life or your career. Now, confidence is a sticky subject for me. It's not something that I necessarily like talking about because it's something that I've struggled with in the past. I've struggled with it for a long, long time. Most of you have never seen me in person. You've never seen a picture of me, but I am, I'm a pretty tall African-American man, and I grew up in Northern Virginia in a predominantly white suburb of Washington, D.C. Now, that particular town has integrated quite a bit since I left. But when I lived there, it wasn't very integrated at all. As a matter of fact, I had many classes where I was the only black person in the class. And that might not bother some people, but it bothered me because I didn't come from that background. I was born in Brooklyn, New York, and my mom and I moved from New York when I was 6, and we moved to Delaware, which was considerably more Caucasian than Brooklyn was. So that was a bit of an adjustment, to basically get used to living around mostly white people. And something I'm certainly not have a problem with people of other races. If I don't want to give that impression at all. But it was an adjustment nonetheless. So I had a really tough time feeling confident in myself. I had a really tough time with self-esteem. And it's something that I've struggled with in one form or another for most of my life. And it's not something that I necessarily like talking about because there's an understanding that, or at least an assumption, that once you get to a certain age in life that, you shouldn't really have any confidence issues anymore. I mean, you are who you are. The world just kind of has to accept you for who you are. But I've always overthought that. I've always overanalyzed that. And that overanalyzation came from a lack of confidence. I didn't really trust myself. For a long time, I didn't like myself, right? I had a lot of self-esteem issues growing up. And I could go deeper, but I wanted to really be transparent for a minute to help you understand rather that I've struggled in this area. So I'm certainly speaking from a place of authenticity when I tell you how it can be a detriment. I think about all the things I missed out on by having low confidence and having low self-esteem. I missed out on some great relationships, some great friendships, some great experiences, maybe even some great, experiences as far as, jobs and things of that nature because I didn't have enough confidence to go for it, right? And so, I know how having a lack of confidence can really damage your life, and it can damage your psyche. It can cause you to make mistakes. I mean, a lot of people, I think, they don't understand how having low confidence affects your performance, right? Because we perform up to or down to our self-concept, and our self-concept is largely made of how much we like ourselves and how much we trust ourselves, right? Self-esteem is how much we value ourselves, right? Self-love, of course, is how much we love ourselves or even like ourselves. And then, of course, confidence is all about trusting ourselves. So what are the benefits of high self-esteem and high confidence? Well, to piggyback on what I just said, you can definitely expect to perform better. You can definitely expect to have more authority in whatever it is that you're trying to do. When a person who has a lot of confidence comes into a room, it's almost as if the energy shifts, right? It's almost as if there's a tangible feeling in the air that something's different, and we can't always place it, right? We can't always figure it out, but a person who is confident in themselves makes their presence known. And that's really what I want to get across to you in this podcast. How important it is to every single day, if you're struggling in this area, don't lie to yourself. Don't delude yourself into thinking that you're more confident than you actually are. Because if you've talked yourself out of doing things, in the very recent past, in recent weeks, if you talked yourself out of approaching someone that perhaps you liked, if you talked yourself out of, starting a business, starting a podcast, or anything that has to deal with the public, if you've talked yourself out of doing that, I believe at the root of that is a lack of confidence. I think that there's fear there that if I do this, someone's not going to like what I'm doing, and deeper, they're not going to like me, right? Because we really do care about what people think, no matter how much we try to tell people that we don't. The reality is most people really do care what people think about them. Even complete strangers, even strangers that probably aren't even thinking about them. We care what people have to say about us. And what I want you to understand is there's nothing wrong with that, but I also want you to understand is that what you think about you is way more important than what other people think about you, and especially strangers, especially people that you don't know. Now, my family's opinion of me, my wife, my daughter, that matters, right? My immediate family, my mom, my sister, close family members, their opinions matter of me, right? But even with them, how I think about myself has to be the dominant thing, because if other people have an issue with you, real or imagined, it can affect how you feel about yourself if you don't already have a strong self-concept, right? So if you're going to take up space in the world, if you're going to take your rightful place as someone who is to make an impact on the world, and it doesn't have to be through fame. You don't have to be like the most famous person in the world to have an impact, right? You can have an impact right in your community. You can have an impact right where you are. You can have an impact in your house. If you're going to take up that space, right, your rightful place, you've got to stop playing small. What do I mean by playing small? You've got to stop shying away from being your authentic self. You got to stop shying away from being who you were created to be. And when you play small, you're basically saying, I'm afraid of what someone's going to say about me, so I'm not going to say anything. Or I'm afraid that people aren't going to like it, so I'm not going to put out this amazing product that can change lives. I'm afraid that I might not be accepted, so I'm going to keep my gift to myself, right? And none of that changes the world. All it does, it causes you to recoil. It causes you to be less than who you really are. When you play small, you rob three entities. You rob your creator, who invested so much in you, the people of the world who need and deserve you and your gift, and yourself of the benefits of taking up your rightful place. You've got to increase your confidence. You've got to increase your self-esteem, and nobody can do that quicker than you. You've got to take up space in the world. I don't care how much money you got in your bank account. I don't care what anyone has said about you up to a second from now, all the way throughout your life. There may be people in your life who have said that you're never going to be anything. There may be people in your life that feel like you're nothing, that feel like you're just a small potato in the big scheme of things. But what they say doesn't matter. It's what you say about yourself that matters. It's how you feel about yourself. How do you feel, right? And what I'm telling you is, you've got to see yourself as the giant you are. You got to see yourself as a person who commands a space in this earth. You're here for a reason, right? You woke up this morning for a reason. And there is a space in this earth that you are supposed to fill. And until you fill it, you're not going to ascend to the level of success that awaits you. You've got to fill that space. And the way you fill that space is by being confident and learning to trust yourself, right? I don't care how many mistakes you've made. You've got to learn to trust yourself, and maybe not even so much trusting yourself, but trusting the God in you, the one who created you, the one who put you here, trusting that he did not make a mistake. So what do you have to do to increase your confidence? Well, there's a million ways to do it, but I picked out 3 that I think will help you. Number 1, like I said, understand that you're here for a reason. Understand that you were created for a purpose, right? Understand that you're not here by mistake. You're here to take up space. You're here to do something specifically, and you should put all of your energy into figuring out what that is if you haven't figured it out yet. Number 2, understand that you have an amazing mind that can figure out and learn anything regardless of what you've been told or what you've done in the past. There's nothing above you. There's nothing above your intelligence. As long as you're able to focus, and as long as you focus, and as long as you determine that you're going to learn something, you can learn it. Because guess what? You've done that with every single thing in your life. Everything that you know how to do now, you had to learn. From walking, eating, drinking, driving a car, most of you, using a computer, using an iPhone, right? You've learned how to do all these things. And you were born not knowing how to do any of it. But you learned how to do it all. So if there's something that you want to do, something that you've been wanting to learn, understand that it's not above you. You can learn anything. You can do anything that you want. And then number 3, confidence is essentially trusting yourself. Learn to trust yourself a little bit more every day than you did the day before. Try something new. And even if it doesn't succeed by world standards, try something and see it through, right? Try to write with your left hand. Try to make an omelet if you never made one before. Try different things, right? And learn to trust yourself, because as you try new things, you will begin to adjust yourself to the mode of doing things that are out of the box. And that's when you really start to experience a life change. So I hope that helped you. I hope that you got something out of that. Take up space in the world. Decide that you're going to live your life on purpose. Decide that you're going to live with full confidence and full enthusiasm. And I'm telling you, you're going to make a difference in this world. I can feel it. And I hope that, like I said, I hope that it helped you. I hope that you got something out of it. My name is Martin Williams. Thank you so much for tuning in, listening to the Under Construction podcast, and I will talk to you soon. Don't forget to subscribe to the Under Construction podcast on Spotify, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, and SoundCloud. For more information on Guided Expressions courses and products, go to guidedexpressions.com/products.